Right guys, what I'm going to do today is I am going to talk to you about 7th chords. 7th chords are built when we extend the triad with the next note in the sequence of thirds. I'm going to do this in the key of C major because that's the easy one because it's got no sharps or flats, but this applies across the board to all of your keys. You just add sharps and flats to the circle of thirds. And I'm going to do the circle of thirds down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this here. So we're going to have C, E, G, B, D, F, and then A. This is the key of C. Now, just for those of you out there who are going to try and mangle this and work it into be all major thirds, it isn't. These are all different types of thirds here. This is a C to an E, that's a major third. E to G is a minor third. G to B is a major third. B to D is a minor third. D to F is a minor third. F to A is a major third, and A to C is a minor third. Now, if you wanted the key signature for this one, I would always recommend writing out your key signatures because you want to be able to look at a key signature and go, I know what key I'm in. Now, you can see there's no sharps or flats, so we don't have to apply them. If there was a sharp or a flat, then we would apply it to the cycle of thirds. What we have to do is I have to show you how these triads turn into 7th chords. And the way we do that is we extend from the triad into the 7th chord. You're going to see how cluttered this gets if we just work it out like this. Now, I could work it out in standard notation, just like I used to do at music school, but you don't need that to be able to understand this. If you understand the formulas and the structures of triads, 7th chords, and all the extended chords, then you can access that information. I found it very difficult when I was at music school. It was piano-centric, and I was a heavy metal guitarist who was into Pantera. I had to retranslate everything into guitar language. Sure, you can do it in standard notation if you want to, but I don't think it's necessary. There will be music theory snobs out there who will poo-poo this idea because they think that you should write everything down in standard notation. Music notation isn't the perfect system for notating music. That's been debated for years. Anyhow, let me crack on with this again. So what we do is we need ingredients to form chords, and we get the ingredients from a scale, and this is the scale. This is the major scale. We're going to do this in C major. So these are the notes that we select. These are the ingredients that we select to make this major scale, and this is the master formula for all scales. This is the template that we modify if we want to get any other sounds out of our music. So what we need to do is make the triad first. Now, the triad comes from something called Tertian movement. Tertiary means three, so it's about threes. This is a tertian circle, but it just happens to be in the key of C. I call it the cycle of thirds, circle of thirds, sequence of thirds, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. It works, so I use it. What we do is we jump over in three. So what does that mean, Ricky? That means C, D, E. 1, 2, 3. So that is the way it works. I almost think of it as like those old games where you'd be driving a spaceship, a 2D platform game, and you'd be flying along, and then you would pick a power-up and then that would give you better lasers or whatever, and you're cruising along and shooting other spaceships. Well, this is kind of what I think this is. The root note has picked up its first power-up, which happens to be this third here. Now, let me just jump over in 3 again. So I go up 1, 2, 3 again. You can see it's leapfrogging over like that. And that gives me my triad. So that's the triad. The triad, trifull, triceratops, tripod, yes, tri, 3. So what we need to do is follow the next logical step. If we're following this tertian movement, if we jump over again, then we pick up this power up, which is the 7th. Now, let me tell you about the quality of these notes, the personality of these notes. The root note is home. Yes, this is home, and it is resolution. We think about it as resolution, okay? The third, this one, the third is in emotion note, and we can think of that as being a colour note. So it's a colour sound. Next is the 5th. The 5th is transparent, and what that does is it stabilizes the root note and the third. It stabilizes the notes around it. The next one we need to understand, though, is this 7th. Why add the 7th? Well, the 7th is an emotion note, and that gives us another colour. Now, if you think about it, if you've ever heard of somebody having mixed emotions, or you've had mixed emotions yourself, then this is what's going on here. We get this contrast and this pull and conflict between these, and it's worth noting that if I just had a root note and a fifth, that would be what we call a power chord. A power chord is probably the most basic harmonic structure that we can have, and we can add other sounds to and make it more complex. The more notes that you have, the more complex the sound is going to be, the more tension is going to be available. This is what happens when we start to introduce the seventh. We get a different kind of tension in that chord. It makes our triads sound less basic. This is going to be the seventh. Now, here's the thing. You're going to start to see how messy it is. Now, if I wanted to go up here from the second note in the C major scale and make a chord from this note here, starting on the D, then I would have to go D to the F to the A. Okay? So D, F, right. So if I put circles around stuff and I put a circle around that, you can see that I'm doing this leapfrog thing, and then I'm jumping over and I can go, all right, I can see that this is here. It's getting a bit messy. Let's have a look. If I start on the E, G, B, oh, hang on, I've run out. So this linear idea means we miss out on being able to keep this as a compact idea that we can refer to when we're working these things out. So if we take that D, F, A, C, those are the correct notes. But let's look at this. F, A, C. Oh, hang on, I've got to come back round, and you might miss something and you drop a letter, and the next thing you know, you end up in a mess. No need. This is what the cycle of thirds, sequence of thirds. I'm going to call it the cycle of thirds here. This solves the problem, because if you remember, we had C, E, G, B. If we start here, we can see that we get C, E, G, B, because this circle follows this tertian movement, C, E, G. Now, what happens if I follow from the D chord? Say I wanted to go from the D chord to create a D chord, I go D, F, A, C. The cool thing is now that I know how to do that, I could do it with all of them. E, G, B, D. That would be for the third chord. For the fourth chord, F, A, C, E. Yes, so I've got root, third, fifth, and then the seventh from the G. Yep, G, B, D, F. Brilliant. Okay, let's look at it from the A minor perspective. A, C, E, G. Root, third, fifth, seventh. I haven't specified what kind of third or seventh it is yet, because that's what we've got to plot out now. We need to understand that there are chord formulas for certain seventh chords that we are going to need to know. The first chord formula that we need to know is for major 7. We're going to have a root, a third, and a fifth. It spells out beautifully in this version that I did at the beginning with this C, E, G, B. There you can see root, third, fifth, seventh. So that's the formula, the recipe, if you will, for how to make a major 7 chord. Now, what we have is this happens on chords 1 and 4. Now, these are Roman numerals. You can switch these to be normal numbers. That would mean this one, number 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm using Roman numerals because this is the way we do it, so we can exchange ideas with other musicians and be agnostic about which key we're in. The next tonality we need to understand is minor 7, and that's going to give us root, but with this one, because it's minor, we need a flat third. Minor third and flat third are synonymous. And then for minor 7, we also need a flat 7 there. That's super cool and really useful to understand. Now, this minor 7 chord applies on chords 2, 3, and 6. That's nice because it takes care of a whole chunk of understanding of what we need to do here. So that applies, in this case, on the D, E, and A. The next sound we're going to come across is the minor 7 with a flattened fifth. Now, it sounds scary. Don't let it scare you, because really all it is a minor 7, which was a root, a flat third, fifth, and a flat 7. But we take the fifth and flatten that. You don't need to worry about all this stuff because it happens naturally in how we spell out the key in the cycle of thirds. So this applies only on this chord here. This is chord 7, which is also known as the half diminished. Anytime you see minor 7 flat 5, it's just half diminished. That's the same thing, guys. What we're also going to do is with the dominant 7th. The dominant 7th, it's got a root, third, and fifth, just like the major 7th, root, third, fifth. But what it also has is it has a flat 7 instead. And this only happens in one chord in the key, and that is chord 5. This is known as the dominant. That's why I've put Dom 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in this instance, this chord would be called G7. This takes care of diatonic keys. So this is what you're going to come across a lot. But I think it's worth putting this in here because this starts to pull in from the harmonic minor and the melodic minor. What we're going to do is have a minor major 7. This is a James Bond sounding chord from harmonic minor and melodic minor, and those are the sevenths that you get when you extend chord 1 in the melodic and the harmonic minor. So what that's saying is that we have a minor triad, which is we've got here, with a major 7. How would we spell that? We'd have 1 and we'd have this business here. So 1 major 7. Lowercase 1 is minor. The way we can think about this is to do this almost like a mathematical sum. Let's do the major 7. If we look at that, and a way to think about it is we get the root, the third, and the fifth. And then what we're doing is we've got that triad and we're adding the 7th, the major 7th. So if we had that as our root note, remember the root is home. Each of these notes here is a root note for a chord. So C major root note. So this would be the major triad, and then this would be a major 7th. Now the thing is, let me put that there. Major 7th. There's no need for us to say major, major. So we just cross one of those off. Major 7. In this instance, we get a C major 7 and an F major 7. The next one, like I say, root, flat third, fifth. That's a minor triad plus a flat 7, which is a minor 7. We don't say minor, minor. It would be pointless saying that, so we don't repeat it. Because there's 2, we cancel 1 out. So that would end up being a minor 7. I'll just put that like that. I don't have to spell the full minor out. I just spell min. I could even do it as lem like that. Yeah, so minor. So let's have a look. We're going to have a D minor 7, an E minor 7, and an A minor 7 in this key here if we wanted to. Now, the next one that we have is minor 7, flat 5. Let's have a look at this. Root, flat third, fifth. There's the minor triad plus the flat 7, which is a minor 7. But then what we've got to do is we're going to account for this flat 5. That means we have to take this flat 5 and alter this down here. Now, when we flatten that 5, what essentially happens is this becomes diminished, but it's not fully diminished because we haven't fully diminished the flat 7. Yes, to fully diminish this, the flat 7 would have to go down a half step to get a diminished 7th, and then it would be a fully diminished chord. But in this instance, we're just adding that to the equation, making that alteration. So that would give us, in this key, B minor 7 flat 5, otherwise known as half diminished. If you flatten the 7th, then you're going to get a full diminished chord, minor 7 flat 5. Let's talk about this dominant one. This dominant goes root, third, fifth, and then we add a minor 7th. This is a crucial way of looking at it in my mind, is we've got a major triad and then we get a minor 7th. I think it's easier to just think major followed by a minor 7th. What we do is just get rid of those and we just keep the idea of a 7th. So this would give us a G 7th chord. That would just be a dominant 7th chord. Wonderful. Now the last one we're going to look at is this root, flat third and 5. We've got this minor triad plus we've got a major 7 here. So we've got major 7 and then we end up with this. Now in this instance, if I picked chord 6, which is the relative minor of this key of C major, and I wanted to go to a melodic minor or a harmonic minor, that would be chord 1 in the harmonic minor or the melodic minor. If we chose A as the root note for this, we would have an A here. Let's do an A. This would be A minor, and instead of deleting both of these out, because minor is less than a major, what we need to do is keep everything. Instead of deleting like we did with the 7th, we would keep both to understand we have a minor with a major 7. A minor, major 7. This is how we would work these out, but we could also use this cycle of thirds here to help us to see what notes we would need to play on our instrument. We can take all this business here and have it just spelled out for us. This is the theory behind it. This is how it all stacks up. But this here, C, E, G, B, tells me that's the root, that's the third, that's the fifth, that's the 7th of the C major chord. C, E, G, B. So you can see how that works there. The one thing we don't understand is being able to see what kind of 7th that is straight away. And to do that, what we need to be able to do is to invert intervals. So let's look at chord 2, which would be D minor 7, like I said. D would be the root, F would be the third, A would be the fifth, and then C here would be the flat 7, because we know how this spelling works. Let's look at the E. We know that E is chord 3, and that follows this spelling here, root, flat third, fifth, flat 7th. So if we go from an E, we go E, upper minor third to get to the third, upper major third to get to the fifth, upper minor third to get to the flat 7th there. So we've got the root, we've got the flat third, fifth, flat 7. Now, moving on, F, A, C, E, root, third, fifth, 7th, G, B, D, F. Here you see this cycle is spelling it all out for us. It's a nice easy way for us to work this stuff out. A, this is chord 6, so we can even attach chords to it. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we get chord 7 here. So we've got 1, 3, 5, 7, 2, 4, 6. This is a useful way for us to be able to just remember which is which going around. Coming from chord 6, we're going to know that this is the root, this is the 3rd, this is the 5th, this is the 7th. On the B here, starting on the B, which is chord 7, which is diminished, I can go B, that's the root, D is the flat 3rd, F is the flat 5, and then we get this flat 7 here on the A note. So that is useful. Now, the thing that is useful as well is to understand how to invert intervals, because there's a little trick that we can do to make it easier to see which kind of 7th is in the chord. If you're interested in learning that, watch this video here.